This program was created in part utilizing the Sound Collection Lab located in the History, Social Sciences, Philosophy Department on the campus of the University of Arkansas at Fort Smith. The views expressed herein do not necessarily reflect the views of the Department of History, Social Sciences, Philosophy, or its faculty, or the University of Arkansas at Fort Smith.
Hey, this truck like it's getting ready to move here. I couldn't see if it was him or not.
Oh, see, Mr. Interstate.
Hey, can you stay with police real quick?
10-4-12.
And welcome to Bill Hollenbeck's Beyond the Badge. This is being filmed once again at the beautiful campus of the University of Arkansas at Fort Smith in the Sound Collection Lab. Today's special guest is my good friend Michael Tilley from Talk Business. Michael, welcome.
Well, thanks for having me.
All
I
right.
love Sound Collection Lab. That sounds like a band. It sounds like a band from the 70s.
Hey, you know, when nobody's around here, Kevin and I, we actually get in here and we kind of start jamming, so you're probably spot on. Also, so glad to have my co-host, Kevin, is back, and how's your day going?
Doing all right. Speaking of bands, I was thinking of getting a group of guys over 50, do some heavy metal, right? Put it all together, call it Fatty Liver.
Ah, there you go. Cool. And of course, all the
Cleveland Fatty Liver.
rehearsals will be over by
Yep.
7:30 p.m.
Yes.
So we all can be home by
Right.
8:30. Get ready
Load
for
the
bed.
Geritol.
I like that. Very good.
Highway to Healthcare.
Absolutely. That's the new name. I think that is so cool. There you go.
Back in the Black Clinic again.
Oh, too funny, Michael. We have a lot to unpack here. A lot of things are happening in Fort Smith, the River Valley, statewide as well. You know, I'd like to talk a little bit about the consent decree, the water park slides. Of course, that's a hot topic. We're also in a time where we're looking for a brand new city manager or city, well, I guess the city manager.
Yeah,
is that
city
correct?
administrator.
City
I think
administrator.
we are. I'm not sure the board's interested in hiring one, but
Okay,
We'll see.
We shall see. We also, I was reading an article, of course, from the Talk Business about the budget deficit that we're looking at. We're in the red. We got a proposed prison in Franklin County that the Franklin County residents obviously do not want. Former sheriff, I do believe, that there needs to be a little bit more bed space for sure, because the county jails are made for county prisoners, not state prisoners, and the state backs them up in the county jails. But a massive 3,000 bed facility, is that what we need right now, or do we need combination of prison reform and more bed space?
and there have been alternate plans pushed about, instead of one big prison, adding onto some of the county jails around the state in those counties where most of those prisoners come from.
Sure.
So
I think that
there's some interesting alternatives out
absolutely,
there.
and we'll talk more about that. But also, there are some good things that are happening here in Fort Smith. I think the University of Arkansas just received a grant. We'll talk about that here in a little bit. But first off, if you don't mind, let's talk about the old CityWire Talk Business. How did that become your baby? How did that start?
Well, that's interesting. So I worked for the Old Times Record back in the Don Ray days in the early 90s, and then left and worked at the Fort Smith Chamber of Commerce for several years, left there and went back to work for Stevens Media. I was their business editor for all of their newspaper operations in Arkansas. In June 2008, I got laid off. A bunch of us got laid off.
Right.
I mean, that's when the newspaper industry, that was kind of like, okay, bye-bye to what we normally know. And so what was interesting is my wife was the head of the United Way at that time. She was the director. And she decided to step away from that because we'd had children, and she wanted to get into teaching, have more time for kids. So it turned out our last day on the job was the same day in 2008. So we went from a two-income family to a no-income family on the same day. So talking about the old pucker factor,
Golly.
with two kids and a mortgage
Yeah.
and car payment. So
To the 10th power, I can
yeah,
imagine.
so
what you
I decided, I had launched a consulting company. Long story short, a guy named Tom Kirkham approached me about doing something news-based. I had already, I had created kind of a model for what I would do for online news back in the old Stevens Media days. One of the editors there, in a very condescending way, told me that would never work. And like I told you earlier, it's worked It's not worked
For
since
how many years
2008
now? Goodness
So-
gracious.
Congratulations.
Yeah, well, thank
Yeah.
you. Well, so with Tom Kirkham, we launched the City Wire, went along, we expanded in Northwest Arkansas, had the great Patricia Brown help move that forward, get it expanded. And then I've known Roby Brock, and he had Talk Business. He launched it a few years before he launched the City Wire. We became content partners. Then just literally, it was a happenstance phone call one day. We were like, why don't we just do this together?
Yeah.
And so 2015, we merged our operations. A year later, we had the opportunity to buy the Northwest Arkansas Business Journal. In Northwest Arkansas, we've since started a similar publication in Northeast Arkansas based in Jonesboro. And so it's just grown. And there have been some ups and downs. We've had some good years, bad years. It's still tough to be in the media. It's still tough to be in the news business. People just think those stories they read, we just pull them out of thin air.
Right.
There's no,
There's no background.
it doesn't,
There's no legwork.
they don't know that it doesn't require people.
Right.
But it's a business just like any other business. And we have, I think we've been successful because we don't pick sides. We try not to pick sides. We just try to call balls and strikes. And like any good umpire, we're going to get it wrong from time to time, but we think we get it right a lot more than we get it wrong. And so I think that's why we've been successful. And we're not chasing headlines. We're not looking for clickbait. And we don't, we're not after all the sensational stuff. We just try to cover the news that we think is the most impactful. And we're talk business and politics because often those merge too often. And we have kind of a higher income, higher education demographic that reads us, and they demand us, they expect us to, cut through all the riffraff and just try to deliver news that they're interested in. Now, look, we don't, you have the Arkansas Democrat-Gazette and you have some other newspapers, and we're glad that they're out there because they can do a lot more coverage. We just have a niche kind of news that we try to hit, and that's where we try to make our hay.
And again, that's mostly politics. That's mostly business.
Yep.
Very, very seldom do you get into the law enforcement or emergency type of
we don't.
stories.
We did for example, when the Sebastian County Sheriff's Department had that unfortunate, tragic episode where they essentially let a guy die on their watch. So we covered that. That when it becomes a public issue, when you know that there may be lawsuits, there may be public money involved in payoffs. It's time to cover that.
Oh, absolutely.
But we don't do mugshots of everybody they arrest every day. We don't do that.
But you are across several platforms, which is great.
Yes. Yeah. That's the other point that Roby likes to make a lot. We're kind of like banking. You can bank with your phone. You can go to the bank. You can bank with your computer. However you want to collect news. We have print publications where we have 2 television shows. Well, 3. One in Northeast Arkansas.
Right. You're on the radio every Friday.
Radio with KUAF with the great Kyle Kellums.
Right.
Do great things like this from time to time. So yeah, we're around, and we have regular radio spots with public radio in Central Arkansas as well. So,
and earlier you were talking a little bit about, I guess your beginnings with KWHN. Is that right?
Yeah, the great Gary Elmore and
very famous here in the River Valley.
And he was so kind to. When we launched the City Wire, he was like, hey, come on. So for 1 hour a week, sometimes a couple times a week, depending on the news cycle, I would go in to their studios downtown on Lexington, which is not even a radio station anymore.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's when, those were the days where that morning show that Gary did, that was, I don't know what the reach would have been, but if you didn't listen to that, you were lost.
You were
for
out
the
of
day.
touch. Yeah, absolutely.
So we missed that, and that would be nice to bring back. Maybe what you're doing can encourage that kind of a more of a not maybe a daily news program, but something more frequent.
Sure.
Well, you've got KFPW still in the mornings. Bill and Karen.
Yes.
Harris.
Yeah, absolutely. Starting out, so you're literally starting out with something brand new, hoping obviously you were receiving some income. At what point or how many years did you finally realize that, okay, this might make it? I'm starting to be able to pay my bills with
Yeah,
this.
that's a great question. And a lot of it was when Patricia Brown came on board. Um, she she used to say, I'm a Fort Smith girl. But, she headed up I just went blank on the golf. Or what was the golf tournament here?
Oh, the
Hard Scrabble.
Yeah, I was at a hard
yeah.
scrabble for so long. The professional golf
Right.
thing.
Oh, yeah, it brought
And-
everybody in.
Yeah, and when that wrapped up, then I'll never forget, she left that organization, and I saw her at a chamber event. I just walked up to her and said, hey, did you ever think about coming on board and helping me make this go? And she told me no several times, and I finally kind of talked her into it. But anyway, we worked on a business model, worked on a plan, and she took it to Benny Westfall and Chester Kaprovic, who had supported her on the country club on that golf
Big
project.
donors. Yeah.
And we weren't asking them for money. We wanted them. We had this business model. We wanted to pitch it to them, and they could poke holes in it. They could say what they didn't like, what they. So we pitched to both of them, and they were like, "Well, when can we write you a check?"
Wow.
So they were the early investors, and they are still investors.
Right.
And so when we got them on board, and Patricia started bringing the advertising, I can't not mention Lady Jane Cohen. She also brought in folks. That's when I thought, okay,
This is starting to work.
Yeah, this
We're gaining
get a
traction.
little traction. And I
Yeah.
think, I think any entrepreneur, that's Michael Tilley I'd have failed. I'd have had flat on my face many years ago. But when you bring on people and you have enough humility to say, boy, I need some help.
Right.
So that's what helped it succeed. And then, of course, Roby and his connections and what he had already built. So when we brought those together, like click.
You know,
It could all fall apart tomorrow. You don't know, but it's
but
going
it's been
well.
a good ride
Yeah, it's
so
been-
far.
yes.
But you know what? You talked about a formula for success, and that's not just in business. It could be in politics. It could be law enforcement, whatever it might be. But yeah, it is when you find yourself not listening to the people who know.
Yeah.
And your
You don't know
head
what
is-
mistakes to not make.
Oh,
Yeah.
absolutely. Because when you start out, you don't know what you don't know.
Right.
But the secret to success, I mean, you were spot on, is surrounding yourself with people who do know, who have great ideas,
Or have the passion
and
for
have
it.
the passion for it. And you mentioned something also, and I've said this before in some other talks that I've spoke with groups, is to have the humility to know that, you know what, just because somebody else is coming up with this great idea on your staff, it's not a threat to you. This is nothing but an advantage. It is an asset, and people sometimes don't take that asset and utilize
Well,
it.
you know, sometimes there's some desperation involved. You know, when you're drowning, anybody
listen
that's
to
willing
anybody.
to throw you
A life
a life
preserver.
preserver, you're gonna take it.
Well,
so-
I'm
But
glad
look,
somebody
but
threw you a life
on the other
preserver.
side of that, I had plenty of folks who said it'd never work, you know, or we're not going to advertise with you because, you know, we don't like your brand of journalism or whatever. I mean, so I've had plenty of reasons for it to fail.
Sure.
And
Have
but-
you had any of those people that said it's not going to work, who has made a come around and say, hey,
Yeah.
can I market with you?
Yes,
or-
there are a few, and
Good,
it's been
good.
interesting too. You know, when we kind of grew and people saw that we were going to be sticking around for a while, because you got to remember, there have been a lot of little media companies pop up in the Fort Smith Metro, and they'll be here for 2 or 3 years, and then they're not here anymore.
Right.
Right.
And so I think a lot of people, and I don't blame them, we're just like, well, we're going to see if this works out. And so,
So-
after a few years, some folks are like, okay. And we started getting, hey, can we submit guest editorial? Or we see that you're doing this kind of news coverage. Can we be a sponsor for it? We've been careful about that because we don't want any pay to play.
Sure.
Right.
Sure.
Coverage.
Absolutely.
So
At what point did you see, I guess, I don't want to say the downfall of print media, but, you know, specifically
Probably when
with
he lost
Stephen.
his job. That's
well,
when.
probably, well, I'm sure there were grumblings, but that's a darn good point, Kevin.
Probably when it happened.
Yeah. But when did you start seeing it, and when did you start understanding why it's happening?
So I started seeing it when I was still at Stevens Media, probably 2 or 3 years before I was laid off. A lot of people may still think that their $15 or $20 or $25 or $30 a month subscription to the newspaper was paying for that paper. That was paying just part of the cost to get it delivered to you. That was nothing. The two primary sources of revenue for newspapers back in the day were classifieds,
Right.
and then the big advertisers, the auto dealers, the law firms, Dillards, the banks. 15 to 20 big consistent advertisers, and then all the classifieds. Well, I can remember I was walking out one day, Stevens Media, coming out of the elevator. I walked past the place where all the folks who were in classifieds. And I noticed that day that there were one side of that office, there was no desk there anymore. And I'm not the smartest guy in the world. I tell everybody I'm just no farm boy from Johnson County, and I really am. But I was like, oh, uh-oh. So you remember Craigslist,
Right.
when, early 2000s, that started coming on. And, and then you started seeing the realtors go online with their ads, and the auto dealers go online. And so, what's interesting, the online technology that's allowed me to succeed is what pushed me into having to be an online
So
media guy.
it kind of pushed you out, but yet also gave you a great opportunity.
So I saw it coming. I wasn't a surprise. It wasn't a surprise. And I know this is not the question you asked, but I still get a little frustrated with folks who say, well, we just don't have the newspaper. We don't have the media. We don't have the number of reporters. We don't have people. Well, get what you pay for.
Right.
You ask those folks, well, how much would you spend? Well, I'm not going to spend any money. That is a lot of the fault of the old newspaper industry. We convinced people that little subscription they were paying every month was what they were paying, is what it cost to provide good journalism. And it doesn't. It costs a lot more to
The
provide good
community
journalism.
has to invest in
So if a community wants good journalism, they're going to have to find a way to pay for it.
Can I piggyback on that question just for a minute?
You bet.
So how has that influenced not only your own writing and editing, but the content you receive from people on your staff? What have you seen in that 26-year span of how it's changed journalism as a craft?
Well, that's a good question. It's not changed. I'm an old school journalist. I got into journalism because I was a poor farm boy from Johnson County.
Right.
And the assistant editor at the newspaper at Arkansas Tech University, half the tuition was paid for the assistant editor of the newspaper. Well, I found a way to get that job. And then I found a way the next year to become editor. The full tuition was paid. So I kind of got addicted to journalism. When I got into it, I just got into it to pay the bills. It helped me get through school. And then I thought, okay, I kind of like this. So that's how I got into it. So I said all that to say I'm an old school journalist. To answer your question, there's a temptation to chase headlines, to do what I call clickbait journalism. And the challenge is to stay away from that. The other challenge is these ad agencies more and more, well, it's not really their fault. A lot of online journalists, and I've done it from time to time, you become a little lazy and you'll take that press release, rewrite it just a little bit and post it. Well, if you're not careful, at some point you go back and look at what you've posted and you've got too much of that corporate speak, that corporate BS, much raw language, and you've not told the reader, you've not given the reader anything that they couldn't gotten from the website of that company.
Right.
So one of the things that's a challenge for us is to minimize. We cover Walmart, and I like covering Walmart. They're always good to us, but their press releases, you almost need a translator for all the language they use, and so we have to dissect through all of that. So that's been a challenge. And obviously I don't have to tell you guys about the political divisions that really began in 2015 with the 2016 election. That's been a challenge. But you know what? When you're disciplined, when you just try to keep covering journalism the way you always have, keep yourself out of it, try to keep your emotions out of it. You can't always do it 100%, but as much as you can, as long as you stay focused on that, I don't care how much the industry changes around you, the world changes around you. If you can stay, I think you can stay focused on that, people will appreciate it. And that's what we get the best feedback from. People say, hey, thanks for not sensationalizing that, or thanks for, look, some of the best decisions we make are stories we don't cover. Some of the things you don't see, because, Roby and I like to say, and this is a good analogy since we're in the middle of World Series, we're not going to, sometimes when we're covering an issue, we're not going to put out a story for every ball or strike. We may update you at the end of the inning or the end of 2 innings, but we'll get you to the end of the game, but we're not going to waste your time with every time somebody gets on base.
Sure.
So that's kind of our approach to journalism also.
I like that. That, I've always thought that, journalists are very, their type of work that they do is very similar to criminal people. It's interviewing people, trying to find out what the truth is,
Right.
whichever direction it lays, not getting personally involved and keeping your emotions out of it.
It's tough to do.
And that is very, very tough to do, because I would imagine once or twice you may have been thrown out of somebody's office, or you knew that you were going to have a tough series of questions that you were concerned about how they would react. So I'm sure that's takes a little bit of a toll.
I've had many aspersions cast upon my character, heritage, family. It's. I've had people want to pray over me so that I would get the story right. So yeah,
Wow,
it's been interesting.
Speaking of the story right, earlier, we were talking about government, any type of form of government, whether it's city, county, state, federal. There's no perfect form of government, but I always think that we have to be held accountable. I truly believe in the world that I came from, and unfortunately, this is partly true, that the majority of the times that we get it right is because we know we're going to be held accountable. It's not, you have morals, you have ethics, and then you also have the media, how they're going to look at it. So you have to get it, or you have to try to get it right all the time. And I'm sure that government does that as well. And so after this break, we're going to get back into a little bit of the city government, what's going on with our budget. Yeah, just a little bit.
Perfect.
All right, welcome back. And we were talking just a little bit about what's happening in city government. We're going to talk a little bit about the city, county, state, and federal government, what's going on. And so we don't have enough time, of course. This is, only about a 45-minute episode, so we'll try to hurry through some of this stuff. But, right now, city of Fort Smith, we got some good things going on, but also we got some budgetary issues that as a citizen, and former elected official who had to run a budget, it's important to balance your budget. So, I saw something on Talk Business, I believe that y'all wrote, or you personally might have wrote, that Christina Katsavis is coming up with a guardrail policy, is what she's calling it, on making sure that they have a study session before they actually make a decision on anything over $500,000, I believe.
Yeah, new capital projects.
New capital projects, yeah. Mandatory waiting period rather than having this happy, good feeling, yeah, let's say yes, and go and spend $4 million for a water slide or whatever project might be. But most important, when I was working for Fort Smith Public Schools, we were doing all the construction on the safety upgrades and security upgrades. But having, a presentation on what the scope and the cost of estimates are going to be, and the funding source and the operational impact it's going to have for the city or the county, and any other type of alternatives that they can look at before they actually pull the trigger. So I'm very excited. I hope that they vote that into play, and I'm quite frankly surprised that they did not look at that in the first place and operate in that fashion.
Yeah, so I've been covering governments of various levels long enough to know that there's often what I call the RSA approach. It's ready, shoot, aim, and so that's what happened with the water slides. It's a good deal. When it was first proposed, it was going to cost the city $2.1 million. Sebastian County was going to come in with $2.1 million. Sebastian County backed out, and a lot of us thought then the deal was done, but it got pushed through and quickly, and now it's going to be a $6.8 million project if it even goes through now. But that's to what Director Christina Katsavis is saying. any new project that comes before the city, and look, new projects come before any city of any size every year, things you hadn't thought about, opportunities to buy a piece of land or a building or invest in something. You know, they have their capital improvement project that they approve. It's part of their budget. So they know those things are coming, but this is for new things. She's just asking for a timeout. And as you said, we get, you know, what's it going to cost? What's the timeline? What's the payout? Is there a benefit on the back end? You know, so she's just asking she's not asking to kill stuff. She's just asking, let's let cooler heads prevail.
Sure.
And so, yes, you're right. I'm surprised the city hasn't had something like that in play.
You might not know this, but if you do refresh my memory, was this presented by Carl Gefkin, or was this presented by the Parks Department? Or
No, it was presented by Gefkin. Rick Coleman, who, by the way, I've tried to email and get in touch with, he's the CEO of American Resort Management. They run the water park for the city.
Right.
The water park's a joint city-county thing. So, and remember, almost 65% of Fort Smith voters voted to use tax proceeds back in 2014 to do this. So the city voters have been in support of the water project. But this new thing, it was brought by Carl kind of last minute. Hey, we've got these water slides that are supposed to go to another park. Now nobody's using them. We can get a great discount on them. And it was just, you know, snap, let's go. And, you know, more often than not, when people in government say, hey, we've got to do this and we got to do it now, and
red flags go up.
Yes, that's almost that's the time everybody needs to say, wait a minute. Let's hold up.
So concur. You know, normally a project like this, Kevin, is you have, let's say, a subordinate that will be assigned or tasked to do the research and then come before the board or the quorum court to actually do a presentation.
It's vetted.
Exactly right. So it seems as if this one wasn't vetted at all.
I think the board was told that 4.2 million was going to be all inclusive.
Yeah.
But what the city never provided, what Mr. Gefkin and others never provided, was that breakdown. It's going to cost X to get the slides here. It's going to cost X to get them assembled. It's going to cost X to get them installed. Then X to bring the water to them, water pumps. You know, so there was just a lot. It was, again, ready, shoot, aim.
Absolutely. And poor Mr. Dingman. I mean, he's kind of left right now.
Yeah,
it's in his lap, and I'm sure he's trying to balance what the city government needs.
I'm glad you brought that up.
Public is saying that.
There's been a lot of people try to throw him under the bus on this, but man, this is just landed in his lap.
Oh,
man.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I think he's just trying to make the best of a bad situation.
Oh, absolutely. Well, yeah, he's a good man. I mean, we've all made some bad choices every now and then, but I think he's doing a decent job so far. But he's got some challenges with how the budget is. Looking at the budget, you know, they're saying that there's going to be a $6.4 million deficit that's projected for the end of this year, and then the proposed budget next year, they're looking at $53 million and an expense of $61.7 million. So that's a lot of money to be in the hole starting out with. So that's and from what I recall, county and state government, you have to have a balanced budget at the end to start out.
State government, you do. County and city governments aren't.
They do not.
They're not required to have a balanced budget. Now, remember, this is the general fund budget. So the water, these large operating budgets, the capital budgets, that's a different animal.
Okay.
Those are paid for through services, water, sewer fees, sanitation fees. You know, those are enterprise funds. They're set apart. The general fund is a different kind of animal because they have and I don't want to really get into this because there's kind of a complicated layer system about what the budget does and does not fund, where it gets its money, that kind of thing. So there are ways to meet that deficit, to address that deficit without just cutting a bunch of people, cutting a bunch of programs and that type of thing. So they have a big, I'm not trying to diminish it. It's a problem. And so they have a challenge in front of them. And it'll be interesting to see how they approach it in terms of not cutting essential services. Because, look, Talk Business and Politics, we're a business. Our biggest cost is people. And it's hard, if you talk about starting to cut budgets, you're going to cut people. And
But you've already reported on this as well, that the city is consolidating some areas already, right?
Yes.
Services?
Yes,
Okay.
they have instituted an organizational structure that was kind of set apart from the budget issue. That was something they'd been trying to work on for a while because there was some overlap.
Cost savings, yeah.
But there'll be, because that was more focused not on necessarily just the savings, but on more efficient.
Okay. Oh, right.
way
Yeah,
to
yeah. Okay.
Run government.
Now I remember.
Streamlining,
Streamlining.
governance,
type of thing.
conjoining government or
And I'm glad you
departments together and so forth.
And I'm glad you brought that up, and maybe you're getting to this because we talked about it earlier. There are, the city did screw up with the water slide, but people need to back off a little bit. The city board, the city administration gets a lot more right than they get wrong. The thousands of decisions that are made every month, maybe every week,
Right.
running streets, fixing potholes, fixing water lines, sewer lines. There's just a lot in a city of almost, what is it? We're up to 90,000 or whatever.
Right.
A lot that goes on, and there's a lot that they get right.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe that's on the media. Sometimes we maybe need to report on that more, but
That doesn't sell.
Well-
I mean, it's very. I mean, and I'll just say this: it's similar to law enforcement. There's times when we hose it big time.
Yeah.
There's no doubt about it. But throughout the nation, we get it right millions of times a day. But it's not reported because it's not sensational. It's nothing. It's just a normal course of business. So when we do something that's going to impact people's lives in
Right.
a negative fashion, cost money. Well, honestly, that is news. So, but I think that's just the nature. You can't report on all great things that city or agencies do every day.
Well, and that's kind of been a debate in journalism too over the years. I once had a
Headline. We had a great meeting.
Well, or
you don't see that very often, do you?
I had an editor who once said, "You don't see a story. No homes burned down today."
Right.
That could be a
no
good
one,
thing.
No one was arrested today. So we don't.
It's the truth.
We don't have a headline every other day saying, look at what great thing the city did today. We let them do their own PR. But I guess my point is, there's I think it's a small but vocal minority of folks who, no matter what the city does, they're going to find something wrong with it, and they just wear me out.
Yes.
Because they just, I don't know. I've said enough about that.
Okay. All right. So let's talk about the city administrator search. I'm kind of excited about this. I'm looking forward to kind of putting this to rest.
I'm looking for your application. I have yet to see your application.
I don't think you'd want me. No.
Well, have you seen the applications?
I have not, and that's what I was going to ask you. Who are we looking at right now?
I say this without hyperbole. The three of us, any one of the three of us, could probably submit a better resume than we've received.
Oh my gosh!
That's
troubling.
The exception to that, there have been 48 resumes now. Maybe 5 of those are from people with any city government experience. One of them is Mr. Dingman, who's now the acting city administrator. So, but they have not conducted. They didn't want to spend any money, and that's okay. But sometimes you get what you pay for. They didn't want to use an executive recruitment firm, executive search firm, and so, part of using a search firm is you're not only getting the word out, but you're paying them to go find talent for you. And so that's the part of the search the city's not done yet. Go find the right talent. So if the board is just wanting to hire Mr. Dingman to step in and have some continuity,
then pull the trigger.
And do it. I mean, it's we're getting on to a year since they fired Mr. Gefkin. So there's some frustration. I think there's even some frustration among board members. You have some board members who want to go in a new direction, some who want to stay with Mr. Dingman. You have some board members who want to go in a completely new direction with even the form of government. So I don't know. I think maybe we have a board right now in this respect on the city administrator issue. They just don't know what day Sunday is on it,
And how many of those?
And I don't mean that to be negative. They're just different viewpoints, different perspectives on where they want to go. But I hope they get better applications, better applicants.
I've seen there's a double-edged sword to this. I believe we did a national search for Gefkin. and I have my opinion about him. I think, there was direction that he was going that was good. And then we started seeing just this, I don't know, this arrogance that I saw as a citizen and even as sheriff, that when I dealt with them and so forth. And that was a national search. So is it a crap shot? It's 50-50. I mean, is it best to go with the known element or to bring somebody else in that may look great on paper, might have a great interview, great qualifications. Then when they come in, it's tough. And I'm glad that I'm not in their shoes because they got a tough decision. But I hope that they make a decision, because you're right. It's been going on for well over a year now. It's time to put that to rest and move forward with some of these other major projects that we have to deal with.
Because you're not, think about it, you're not being fair to Dingman either.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if you've got acting on your title, can you really
Make hardcore decisions that are right?
Well, your department heads are like, well, screw that guy. He's just
Right.
acting.
He's temporary.
Exactly.
Yeah. So they need to, they need to make
They
a
need to get it
decision
together and
one
pull-
way or the other.
Man,
And if they're gonna, if they really want to do a thorough search and know that they have the best candidate, I think that's my point. How can you know that you're hiring the right person? You haven't done a more exhaustive, haven't paid even for a more exhaustive effort to find the right candidate. So, if it's a $50,000 search, to me, that's kind of worth it.
Yeah.
If I'm going to find somebody that's going to be with us 5 or 10 years and,
right.
and provide that direction, because you're not just hiring somebody who knows where, that just keeps the trains running on time. You've got to hire somebody that needs to know maybe the trains don't need to be running in that direction, or we're going to get away from trains, and that has a progressive vision, and is visionary about where the city needs to go. Or are you just going to hire someone that just, make sure it just keeps rolling along the way it is now?
Government is a crazy, crazy person. You put somebody in there, and they answer to do a job, and they answer to these directors, or they answer to, let's say, if you're a school superintendent, you answer to this school board. And, I have seen historically where, the majority of their job is to try to make the school board happy or the board of directors happy. And so they're not making sound financial decisions or sound decisions what's based on what's good for students or staff. Maybe that's democracy. I don't know.
In the next election, the board changes, and you got to make a whole new group happy.
Absolutely.
The whole dynamic.
Yeah.
changes.
So it's a tough job, and so I am glad that you make mention about that's we do get it right more than we get it wrong, because they do, being an elected official and former elected official. I know the difficult jobs that they have.
Well, and
have to
it's not
answer to a
always
board.
about what's in front
No.
of us today, but it's
Yeah.
about what's in front of us or what's possible in 10 years from now or
Sure.
30 years from
Oh,
now,
gosh,
as Kevin Settle said in
Yep.
your article.
Yeah.
So you've got to think 30 years out. Are we going to reap some benefit from this on tourism, for example, or are we going to be able to pay this back, or what's going to happen with the water park, for example?
Well,
we don't know.
I think you'd have I think you'd be hard pressed, and this is just Michael Tilley's opinion. I think you'd be hard pressed to say the water park has been a mistake. It's made over 1.1 million since it's been open. You have 100,000+ people during those 2 to 3 months show up.
Right.
I bet if you did the economic impact on it, you'd be surprised at the benefit
sure.
it brings the area.
They have to
And-
eat. They get gas. Absolutely.
And I continue to hear people, and I don't laugh at the people. I just think sometimes the city doesn't excel.
market it right.
But for example, there was a lady that spoke at the board meeting recently, said, we need to get out of the tourism business. We need to get out of the park business, because that's not economic development. We need to be bringing in white collar and blue collar jobs. And I just thought, tourism is economic development. When you bring jobs in, those people are going to want to know where they can go play when they're not working. They have kids. They want to go to the water park.
Or a business owner who's thinking about
Yeah.
relocating his business to a location that has nothing for his family or his workers. You think he's going to want to move here?
No.
Oh,
No.
no. It's both. We need the jobs, and we need the quality of life. There's no doubt about that.
Back in the 90s, when I was at the Fort Smith Chamber, economic development, you recruited the companies and the people would follow. That is switched now. You have to recruit the people and the companies to follow. And go talk to these recruiters at Mercy and Baptist and ask them what they hear when they're trying to recruit doctors or physician's assistants. Yeah, they want to know. They can see the quality of the hospital, but what kind of community am I moving to? Do I have trails? Can I go backpacking? Can I go hiking? Is there a water park? Are there other parks? What can my family do? And if you don't have that, you're not in the game. You're going to be behind in the economic development game. So tourism, I wish people know that water park or that Carol Ann Cross Park is just as important as building an entranceway to a manufacturing plant. It's just as important.
Oh, I agree.
Or a
100%.
half-built highway that we spent how much on?
Yeah.
What you about I-49?
Yeah.
I-49. Yeah.
How's that going?
Yeah.
Well, you got to take them in pieces. You got to take what you get on
Sure.
interstate. And so I know that is, and I've got a list of here some things that I think are going right in the region. That's one of them. Within 10 years, we're going to have that connection from that Alma interchange, across the river, through Fort Smith, through Barling, down to Greenwood. Now, would we like to get it connected on down to Hot Springs or Texarkana? Yes, but that's in process. That's going to be a big thing to have that little loop. We're going to have a second interstate. You got 549. You're going to have a second I-49 loop on the east side of the city. And so,
for commerce, I mean, that's exactly what you're looking for, to be able to get your goods out. And so could that draw
when that 14.3 mile segment gets built, I don't think people understand yet. And maybe we in the media need to do a better job explaining that that's going to have a huge benefit in terms of economic development, making this region more attractive.
Okay. Consent decree. Do you think we're going in the right direction? Are we spending our tax dollars that we passed properly? What's your thoughts? Because I know a proponent saying we need to hire an engineering firm, which I can see that. I mean, to let land on the director who's over that. Has he ever had anything of that scope, of that large of a project? So and maybe they are, maybe they aren't, but I'm excited about that because dumping raw sewage in our most valuable resource, that irks me to no end, and I'm glad that we're finally addressing it.
Well, we are, and so I think the key is I was impressed that the board pulled together what was pretty aggressive tax package, presented it to voters, and the voters almost overwhelmingly. Anytime you can get close to 65% on a sales tax vote,
that's big time.
That's pretty good.
Right.
And, that vocal minority crowd was, this is going to kill the city. The voters are going to reject it, and you guys are going to be embarrassed. The voters said, nope, we have finally got to fix it. And so I think the key now is, and it's incumbent upon us folks in the media to make sure, I think you nailed it. Are we spending the money right? Are we fixing the big projects? And it's not only going to be us, but it'll be the EPA and the DOJ if they're not completely eviscerated at some point in the near future. But it'll be up to them also to make sure that that these projects, that the sewer system is being fixed. Look, we're in this situation. Frankly, I'm surprised that the EPA and DOJ didn't slap us with this consent decree a decade or two sooner than they did. It's been several decades where they kept coming to the city saying, y'all need to clean this up. You've got raw sewage in people's backyards and into the river and streams, Arkansas River. Can y'all clean this up? And the city would say, yeah, we're going to get that. And then they wouldn't. And they just didn't have the political will. And there's a good government conversation here. You've got to provide, if you're going to provide water and sewer and sanitation services to people, you need to make sure that you're covering the cost to do that. And so for too long, the city board of directors and the city leadership didn't have the political will to increase those sewer rates. We don't want to hit people with more rates. Well, okay, then you're not adequately funding your system, and you end up with a system. Now we've got 100-plus-year-old pipes in the ground now because we did not have the political will and the financial means to keep keep the system updated. I love it when people say, well, we need government to run like a business. And then you say, okay, well, we need to raise your water rates because the cost of providing you water.
No,
I didn't mean like that. Yeah, I didn't mean like that. So
I guess they're estimated to generate like $360 million with that tax. And I'm not sure, is that a year or is
that's over 30 years?
Over 30 years, okay. So that's what, a third of what we might need, but with other revenues and other taxes, and ongoing taxes.
Yeah, and there'll be some other bonds that will be able to come in through that process. But
good.
Yeah, I was impressed.
Yeah,
It was a pretty
that's good. Well, I'm glad that money is earmarked, from what I understand, strictly for the consent decree.
Yeah, the question is, you can have a good plan, but you've got to execute it.
That's true. And again, the future of our next city administrators is so important because he has to understand that. So he has to stay on top of it. He has to make sure the money's being sent right. He has to hold the people who are running the project accountable with updates. And then you got to update the community. They want to know. People want to know.
Well, and there are some bond attorneys between Little Rock and Memphis will make sure that
that's true. That's true.
Correctly.
Hey, let's talk about Portsmouth schools for just a second. They're doing some right sizing, is what they call it. They basically, in my opinion, they've lost, I think, over 1,000 students because of potentially either the LEARNS Act, they're going to private schools, they're going to charter schools, or they're either moving out or going to other schools and so forth. So do you think we can sustain the LEARNS Act? I mean, how long do you think this is going to last?
Wow, that's
and is that going to be incumbent to what governor's here?
Yeah, I don't think, again, ready, shoot, aim. And I think we did that with the LEARNS Act.
Yeah.
I think on its surface, you want to provide more incentive. You want to tie outcomes to investments. But I also think if you're going to give money to charter schools, they need to meet the same requirements as public schools do. But yeah, to your point, and I've had some text and email conversations with school officials, and it's a story we're working on. We don't have it out yet, but schools like Fort Smith, well, let me say it the other way around. There's going to be a lot of public schools in Arkansas who are going to have this issue. They've built capacity to meet X number of students. Now, LEARNS Act is going to come in and reduce that by a certain percent. And so you're going to, and school money is tied to
students,
ADM, the average daily, whatever, fund. So they're losing money. They have fewer kids in buildings, but your fixed costs are the same, correct? Mm-hmm. You're still paying X, whether you have X minus the need for that, correct? So to your point, I think we're going to be learning a lot about LEARNS in the next few years, what the true costs are. And I would not be surprised because you're going to have a lot of superintendents knocking on a lot of doors of legislators saying, time out, boys and girls.
We need to fund this.
Let's look at this a little differently. Let's figure out just, because you're going to have a lot of schools having to right size. And, look, what happens if the Fort Smith School District right sizes and then the LEARNS Act somehow unwinds and all those charter schools are no longer profitable and you push kids back into a public school system?
We wipe the cobwebs off these old buildings and try to reopen?
These old buildings you may have already sold or you don't have anymore. So, that's
it happens more often than you think.
So Franklin County obviously is having an issue with the proposed prison. It's
I don't think Franklin County has an issue. I think the governor has an issue with it.
I think so. I think it takes two to tango for sure. But it is impressive that they were able to coordinate, I guess, a resistance, if you want to call it, and try to communicate with the governor's office that this is not where we want it. There's other counties that want it. There is so much to unpack there on how it came to be. Lack of communication, the needs for
lack
extra
of communication. I don't think there's zero communication.
Was there any?
Yeah, and the actual need for more prison space. So where do you think that's going to land?
Well, I don't know. The first side effect of this has been her unwillingness to have a special election in a timely manner for Senate District 26 there. Senator Stubblefield, Senator Gary Stubblefield was the senator for that district. He passed away untimely a few months ago, but he was her biggest thorn in the flesh and blocked the funding for the prison that she needed. And so, if you don't have a senator in that district and you come through the fiscal session next year, that's just one less vote you need to get your funding through. So that's the kind of the first side effect. But that has been one of the most interesting stories we've covered in a long time. I mean, it's even come back in Impact Fort Smith. We had an FOI violation because Mr. Dingman, the city, kind of ham-fistedly responded or didn't respond to a request about whether they'd have meetings to provide water to this prison. So, and then the water's an issue. They have drilled wells and get a trickle of water out. And now they're talking to, they're talking to the feds about using it for an ice facility. I mean, this story has just been all over. I mean, if you
can't make this up.
No, if you told me tomorrow that they were going to, build a facility out there to build, missiles for Ukraine or something, like, okay. That sounds as reasonable as anything.
Plausible.
Yeah,
absolutely. It's
but we're making fun of it. But I wanted to say that I feel for those people in Frank. I come from a rural county, and you drop that in the middle of my backyard. No, their local representatives didn't even know about. The mayors didn't know. The county judges didn't know. Sheriff. That you just don't do that to people. Even if it's not good leadership. Even if you could justify that prison, you just don't do that to people.
No, you don't. The big question is our governor going to be wise enough to understand? Because you know what, we all make mistakes. Did she? Can she understand she made a mistake? And let's take a step back and let's discuss this and come to some sort of good resolution, whether they do build something there or they build it somewhere else. But I mean, there has to be some sort of communication. Right now, I see zero.
Yeah, she's dug her heels on this, and I don't know why, other than she just, it's her idea. I think if you're running for higher office, if governor's not your ultimate end game, you want to be able to have in your quiver of political tools in the future. I built a 3,000 bed prison, and I was tough on crime in my state, and look what I did. I solved our crime issue in Arkansas.
But that goes against the motto of the state, doesn't it?
Well, I think state mottos have been out the window with this administration.
Totally going against the people.
Yeah. Look, I've covered governors and since when I was at Arkansas Tech, I interviewed Mr. Clinton when he was governor. And
right.
This is the first administration that's just been walled off. Used to I could get on the phone with PR group and the governor's PR team and ask a few questions. Hell, I've even had, for example, Governor Beebe and Governor Hutchinson.
Right.
I'd get a call late at night. Hey, I've got the governor on the phone. We didn't get back to your question today, but he's willing to give you an answer directly.
Nice.
Great. Yeah. That doesn't happen anymore.
No,
that is just shut down. And the answers we do get, used to you could ask a question and you'd get several paragraphs. Well, here's this, and here's the law that allowed us to do this, and they give you background and answer your question. Now you get 2 or 3 very terse sentences. And sometimes they're even somewhat insulting or condescending, like, how dare you ask this question? So that is complete. And look, if you voted for Governor Sanders, great. I'm just telling you my experience.
Well, is it really good politics when it comes down to that, when there's a line that's drawn and so forth? And there's times when you got to draw a line in the sand, and if you truly need, but also it's important to listen to the people. And so I wonder what she might think is a feather in her cap. Being tough on crime is now going to flip now to be an Achilles heel.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I know Lee Watson. I would encourage you to get him in here sometime. And put him on your list to talk to.
Well, I was impressed with Lee, and I think I even reached out to him and said, hey, that's courageous to come up with an alternative with this type of situation that's going on. And he came up with some great ideas, and as a former sheriff, they just make sense. So kudos to Lee for coming up, and he's not trying to be disrespectful. He's just trying to be a good steward of the taxpayers' dollars, and also ultimately, that's being loyal to state government.
He's on.
By
He's,
doing and the governor by giving good suggestions.
his job on that commission is to look out what's the best interest
Right.
for prisons, for the criminal justice system. That's what he's doing.
The legislators that here locally that have supported it. How do you think how they're going to fare out with that?
I don't know.
Is that going to be a plus or minus?
Well,
in the
not all.
next election.
Representative Richardson, Jay Richardson, hadn't supported it, but yeah, I interviewed Justin Boyd after she decided to not hold the Senate District 26 election until next June, and I know that he's moving into leadership positions, and I know that it's the governor has already shown that if you push back on what she thinks a priority, you're going to get punished for it some way or another. And I get it. He's got other things he wants to do for the area, for the district, and so he's probably just counting his, we're seeing where the political, where the political dominoes may or may not fall. But I wish they'd just be more vocal, whether they support it or not, instead of kind of wishy-washy about it. And I think that's one of the frustrations with people of Franklin County. They can't even get, where's the justification for this? Where's the study for this prison? How do you, she talks about, well, this is where we can get the workforce. You can't, where are you going to get 800 people to work at that? I talk to a lot of businesses in the region now. They can't find, they've got jobs open now they'd like to fill and can't fill them. So
it's a tough cookie.
So there's just a lot of questions about it that have yet to be answered. And I think to come back around to your question about people, local legislators, they are very careful and often vague about their answers.
All right. Hey, you also got some positive things you want to talk about.
Well,
and I have one thing before you start.
Okay.
I just saw where UA Fort Smith received $5.7 million from Arkansas Higher Industry Readiness Development for new equipment and so forth. So that's kind of cool. Northwest Arkansas received $3 million for trails by RDOT.
Yep.
And $20 million is going statewide. I'm hoping some of that $20 million will filter down here to Fort Smith.
Well, it may, but I had on that list. In fact, I did the interview with KUAF today, and when I talked about that advanced manufacturing lab that's going in here, Dr. Riley said,
right,
of that 5.7 million, we're getting 1.7 is going to the lab. I don't think people, that's not one of those sexy, glamorous, eye-catching headlines, but in terms of fundamental economic development, that if you want to, our manufacturing job numbers are down from 29,000 down to about 18,000 now. We're never going to get back there because you don't need as many people to produce widgets.
right.
But if you're going to stay competitive and get back to manufacturing return, you've got to have this.
It's them to develop a certain skill set.
Right.
With that skill set, then hopefully manufacturers are going to see that this community has young men and women that are up to that skill set, and maybe they might build. So
a key thing, though, this equipment, it's not 5-10-year-old equipment that ABB has finished using and now they're bringing in here.
Right.
This is equipment that's being used now. So
wow,
students are getting real training on real equipment. And I think it's one of the more exciting things.
Sure.
It's a great partnership.
Yeah, and we put the post out there. I know it probably won't get many views, but it's one of those things,
well, I'm glad we're talking about it here because it needs to.
If you're not doing that, you're not in the
you go.
economic development game.
Absolutely.
You're not going to recruit those. You're not going to recruit those companies.
All right. What else do you got that's positive? Let's talk. Let's end on a positive note.
Yeah, and I know you don't have much time, but there's all kinds of things that the city does right. Look at what they've done with their parks, Caroline Cross and Creekmore Park in recent years. They've handled the consent decree. Fort Smith Police Department, Fort Smith Fire Department funding. Remember, there were years where they didn't have money to pay pensions. They were having trouble paying staff, but those departments are doing well
was
now.
horrible.
But
they had a mass exodus.
So from a
but now
public
they're back
safety
up.
standpoint, the city's done a damn good job. And so, you screw up on water slides, but look at all the parks. Again, public safety. They've got the consent decree under their belt. Bears watching, make sure that's going along well. But look at our water supply, too, and our landfill. We are the envy of many, many communities around the country to have a stable water supply and a landfill that's going to last another 100 years. So those are other bright points. And look, I'm not
Good
being
points.
a Pollyanna. I'm an old school journalist. I try to,
Both sides of the story.
well, our old motto used to be we comfort the afflicted and afflict the comfortable. And so, and I still kind of have that philosophy. But you have to be blind not to see that the city of Fort Smith's got a lot of good things going on. And you talk to Tim Allen and folks at the state, they'll tell you the city stepped up in a big way and was instrumental in getting this foreign pilot training center here. That's another one of those things I don't think people understand the real. That's an impact on a global level. I got to interview the ambassador from Finland, a few weeks ago, and she was very clear. Fort Smith was not on their map, was not on anybody's map in Europe.
Wow.
Now it is. Because those F-35 pilots.
Well, I think the Italians like us.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
That little Derby thing,
Since 40,
you know.
since
Sister City
44
thing.
or 45, yeah. But guess who the pilots are that are going to be on the front lines in Europe up against this little Russia country?
Yeah, absolutely.
Those are those F-35 pilots. And I just read an article the other day that F-35s now are part of a integrated system to push back against drones. So that
and you wonder with that program, will there be some other General Dynamics or some other military industrial type of companies come into Fort Smith? And
Lockheed's already here
so
with 100 and something folks.
bring some more, more.
But we've got a great library system. That's something else.
Yes.
A lot of communities, I don't think people realize we got libraries in different parts of the city. That was another voter approved thing. And gosh, look what's going on with Arkansas College of Health Education.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
amazing
That is huge. That is a game changer kind of deal. And even with the research, the Wellness Institute in the former Beverly building. So if you sit down and you will be, I think, impressed by just the inventory of things that are going right. And I've got a longer list here. I mean, look, it's not just organizations like the city and the medical school. You have very progressive and aggressive folks putting on the Peacemaker Music, Steel Horse Rally, folks at the Central Business Improvement District in Main Street, Fort Smith, trying to do things in downtown Fort Smith. So there's just a lot of people doing a lot of good things. Do we screw up every once in a while and try to do maybe make bad decisions? Yeah, but that doesn't mean people are incompetent or corrupt or whatever. It's just sometimes people make
human.
bad decisions.
Yeah, you're human, making bad choices. Admit your choice. That's the secret. Admit your bad choice and say, "Hey, we're going in this direction.
Screw it up.
Let's
do
move
something
forward."
different.
There
Yeah.
you go. That's all that I ask as a citizen. I'm serious. It's there are good things going on here, but again, the challenge: market it. The city, market it. Let everybody know what's happening.
Yep.
And maybe some of the naysayers, which I believe we have to have, because I truly believe in accountability. But hopefully some of the naysayers will see this also and start marketing some of the good things as well.
And I failed to mention Tim Allen and his crew at the Fort Smith Chamber. I was when Tim first came here, I thought,
Who is this guy?
Who's this idiot from Little Rock? He used to be with AEDC. What's he know about Fort Smith, man?
He's done an outstanding
He has
job.
done an
hasn't he?
outstanding
Yeah.
job. And here's the other thing. He has put good people around him to run the chamber while he does the economic development thing. So he's figured out a way to make that work. And I don't know if I should give him all the credit for that, but if you're the president of the chamber and
it's
and
about
working,
leadership. Sure.
Yeah, and so
It's creating a vision.
Ashley Backert, who's come in to run the Fort Smith A&P, I've been impressed with her.
No, I don't know her.
You
so-
ought to get her in here and talk to her.
Okay.
When she first came in, of course, the older I get, everybody's a kid, and I thought, who's this kid? But she's pretty impressive.
Young
Good.
punk.
Yeah.
Good deal.
The hell,
good
get
deal.
out of my yard.
Well, good. All good stuff. So thank you for adding that, because that is so important, because, these men and women that do work in government, there's a lot of sacrifice that they deal with every single day.
Right.
So no, we appreciate the hard work that they do.
I think
maybe sometimes they need a little bit of a break and a little pat on the back.
I think sometimes they're like us journalists. They get told often about how they're doing their job wrong. So.
There you go. Yeah, yeah. Kind of like law enforcement at times too. I don't know. Maybe
And
I'm
teachers.
biased on that. And teachers. Yeah, there's a lot of us out there. Okay, we'll leave it with this. Rumors that the mayor is not going to run, and there's rumors of people that are on the board that are wanting to run for mayor. What are you hearing?
The mayor's not going to run.
Okay.
He's already made that clear.
Okay.
Yeah, there are a few folks on the board who want to run. I think there are a few board members who also see office higher than the mayor or legislator. So, yeah, it's interesting to kind of watch them kind of pivot, do their little, on a much smaller scale, do their little Game of Thrones kind of
Song and dance.
Yeah.
Yep.
But
Look at me. Look at me.
yeah, there's every board is different. But I don't often always agree, and sometimes I shake my head at some of the things they do and say, but I've never had a board member yet, city board member, that I thought was just off base, was being devious, or was not doing they've all.
Had good
I always get the
intentions.
sense that they're coming at it and trying to make the best decision they can, whether you agree with it or not.
All right. I think we'll leave it at that because I wholeheartedly agree. Kevin, you have anything else?
No, I just, if you haven't found Michael Tilley yet, you can find him on television. You can find him on radio, newspapers, online, social media, email. You can even email him if you want to. We could probably put that in there, couldn't we?
Probably could.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll drop the email address there on the screen.
Michael
Yeah.
Tilley at
Or follow
mtilley,
Michael Tilley right here at the
talkbusiness.net.
right above me. You see it right here.
Magic.
Give him a call. There you go. Hey, Bill Hollenbeck and my co-host Kevin Jones, we're so happy that you joined us. Don't forget, if you like this content, make sure that you like and subscribe to the channel. And from the Sound Collection Lab, thank you so much. From the University of Arkansas at Fort Smith, myself and Michael Tilley and my good friend Kevin Jones, thank you for joining. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Mary, the RP can direct to the female. She's sitting in the dining area. Female Hawaiian or Samoan, 40s, 5'5", medium build, wearing a white hoodie and 6 Frank Lincoln Davis 311, about the 1100 block of Palm Office.